Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for your patience as we work through our slightly oddball technical difficulty there. My name is Claudia Figgleman. I am one of the education account managers here at Visual Sound. On behalf of my colleagues, I would like to thank everyone for attending and welcome you today. Today's webinar is on blended learning. Presenting along with me today will be Corey Freed, our education consultant, Brendan Fowler, another one of the education account managers here at Visual Sound, and Ramona Vilas, our VP of Sales and Engineering. Next slide, Corey.
Sorry, I'm trying to let people in at the same time.
So I'll take care of that.
Okay.
Just a little bit about us at Visual Sound. We have been working with schools since our founding in 1967. We are known in the Delaware Valley and beyond for our work in education, and these are our 4 divisions. Specifically, I wanted to bring your attention to our live event and production staging division. Although it is not our topic today, we want to let you know that if anyone is looking to do a virtual, either in person or a virtual graduation, we would like to speak with you about what the options are. Next slide, Corey.
There you go. Oh, it went too far. Sorry.
We work with schools across the Middle Atlantic region to provide a variety of, solutions such as classroom technology. Work with many of you with smart boards, STEM products and consulting, presentation and sound systems for gyms and auditoriums, TV studios, and esports. Professional development is available for all of the solutions that we provide. I would like to introduce our education consultant, Corey Freed, who will be discussing what blended learning is and how it can fit into your classroom.
All right, thank you, Claudia. So as Claudia mentioned, I'm going to just really briefly touch on what blended learning is and how it can look in your classroom. So as we know, education is changing on a day-to-day basis right now. And what blended learning is it's a combination of a bunch of different learning styles so that we can truly meet the needs of our students. So face-to-face learning is that traditional classroom where your students come in, they sit in their rows, you stand in the front and talk to them, they listen, take notes, work together in pairs, maybe in small groups, that type of situation. Online learning is where, kind of like what we're doing right now with the webinars, it could also be watching videos and then responding, reading stuff at home and responding, making videos, making presentations, collaboratively working on documents. There's a ton of different things that students and faculty can do using both the online education and also the face-to-face. So what blended learning is it is a combination of the two. Some schools have a concept for the past few years called the flipped classroom, where teachers would create their lectures and their presentations and students would watch them at home for homework. And then when they come into the classroom, that's when they're doing the science experiments, the math practice, all the things that it's really helpful for the students to have that kind of coaching as they're trying it, rather than just the passive taking notes as the teacher's writing. So the concept of online learning is not a new concept. It's just the fact that we are now kind of forced into it, where not every teacher has been trained and has the pedagogy. And that's kind of what we're here to help you with when we offer our professional development, when we offer all of our free webinars that we've been hosting throughout the week and throughout the school year that since the shutdowns began. And we are going to continue those as well moving into the summer. So we really are here to support you. And again, blended learning is not something new, but it is something that can be scary to teachers that have not done it before. And that's what we're here to help with. So I'm going to pass it now to Brendan, and he is going to talk about some of the solutions that Visual Sound offers. Brendan?
We can't hear you, Brendan.
My apologies. Brendan Fowler with Visual Sound. Thanks, Corey. Just to kind of cover this real quick is what we have here is a picture of a classroom. So what we have to do now is kind of think of what this best solutions are for your standard size classroom. Figure about 25 by 25, small, medium size, and then kind of help with systems that enhance the learning experience, because we have to worry about both audio and video, how to see the presentation, how to hear the presentation. Will there be masks on? We have to make sure we can cover all that. So what we're going to show here, what this diagram shows here, is a flexible configuration. It should meet any teacher's needs in different kinds of environments, whether it's part students in the classroom, part at home. We know we don't have a full pathway to that solution as of yet, as far as where schools are going. But what we want to kind of cover today, and we'll get into the details, is how you handle that no matter what the setup is. So as you can see here, we have some hardware color circled in red and numbered. So just to highlight a couple of them, the primary pieces are the USB speakerphone and the PTZ camera. We want to make sure that we have everything covered there as far as audio and video being seen on both ends at both locations, wherever the students and the teachers are. So we also have number one is obviously the teacher's computer, which will house whatever software you're running, whether it's Zooms or, as we're using today, Teams and Google Meet, and so the computer's there. Then we have number two, obviously, is that speakerphone with an integrated microphone. Number three is a pan tilt zoom camera, and this is important to have all those features in your camera: pan, tilting, and zooming, obviously to make sure you can capture everything and everyone in the room. We'll work with you if you need a tripod. We list that as optional because sometimes you have one. We also work with you as far as the inputs. Not every solution can be the same, because some don't have all the inputs. Maybe you don't have enough of one or the other, so we'll get more into that. Number four, there looks like a black box, is a wireless tablet that allows you to digitally ink up to the display in the front, whether it's a smart interactive panel, an Epson interactive projector. And then number five is another optional. It's a sound reinforcement system, a voice lift system. Obviously, teachers, like I mentioned earlier, may have masks on. They may be speaking freely, but one way or another, we want to make sure, and we'll work this out with each individual request. We want to make sure everything is seen, everything is heard, and it's extremely seamless for the teacher to use. So we can now pass this on to Ramon, who will get a little bit more detailed on this. But thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Brendan. Next slide, please. As Claudia mentioned in her introduction earlier, my name is Ramon Aviles, and I'm the VP of Sales and Engineering. And I would like to thank you all again for attending this webinar. And I'm going to cover the interconnectivity between the devices. But before doing so, 3 sample devices, I want to kind of identify why we selected the product and some key factors, 4 key factors that we strongly suggest when selecting the products that you're going to integrate into a blended solution. So the blended, if you notice there, we said blended solutions of these particular packages, they start from $13.75 and up to $38.75. And keep in mind, we actually represent probably over 300 manufacturers. So these packages can get customized to the actual environment. But let me go over the key factors, the 4 key factors. And the first one, the product selection that we selected, they must be plug and play, simple to use, where an instructor or teacher, anyone could just plug it in, and had to be transportable, where you could actually take it into your home or anywhere in a classroom or any classroom. So that was number 1 key. The second item factor was that these products were vetted and tested by Visual Sound to provide the most flexibility and to provide the most reliability for minimal instructional downtime. That was a key factor. The third factor is providing the actual good and audio quality so that we know the teacher and the students had the best experience, remote and enhanced experience for the environment. That was key. Prime example is that speech intelligibility, viewing angles, and the fourth factor is that we wanted to make sure that this product that we selected, and the reason we selected, that we can repurpose it. We don't know what conditions or what the new classroom environment may look like in another year or so, but the products we selected can permanently be installed in a permanent situation anywhere within different environments throughout the school. Example being the studio for morning announcements, auditoriums, like a classroom. Actually, the camera could be installed in an auditorium, gym, other locations. So those were the key 4 factors. So let me bring your attention to the first solution on the left. And the key factor there is audio and video. I'm gonna start with the audio on the top, which is identified as a USB speakerphone. It's technically an all-in-one audio system, which has a 360 microphone pickup pattern. It actually has 4 built-in microphones, 1 in each corner. It also has built-in echo cancellation, noise cancellation. So these are 2 key factors. And then the speakerphone. That particular device, I actually have one in my office. It picks up probably 20 to 25 feet easily. So that's one key factor. The second one is the camera on the left. It is a pan and tilt camera, and the reason we select that camera is because it has dual simultaneous output, which has the HDMI and USB 3 output. You can use it for other locations, as I indicated earlier, in the studio for HDMI out. It is HD, 12x zoom, and it has a wide viewing angle that we can pick up an instruction or a teacher at the front desk or at a integrated smart board or anywhere within the classroom. It also has the capability of controlling the camera via a LAN connection. So you don't have to get up to actually adjust the camera. It also has presets capabilities. Now, if we look at the actual diagram on the right, what we added was the tripod and an extender, USB extender, because there are some key factors or actually gotchas that for USB. The key there is if you look at it, the extension, USB extension can only extend maybe 16 feet without extenders. We added a tripod so we could place that camera anywhere within the classroom. Those extenders actually extend up to 330 feet, well beyond the classroom needs. But to give you the idea of flexibility, there's other ways we could actually extend the camera by power USB cables. So taking that into consideration, let me flip over to the next diagram, which adds all the components that Brendan indicated earlier. Specifically, if you look in there, we added the USB hub because that's another gotcha. We don't know the device that the teacher or instructor would use. It may have limited USB connectivity. Again, the USB hub is added in this image, the digitizing tablet, which is a Waco, to allow you, and then the voice lift system. And if you notice, relatively small there, but they're Bluetooth devices. Some of the key things you have to keep in mind is that the digitizing tablet can connect via USB or Bluetooth, but you can't have 2 Bluetooth devices connected on the same unit. So these are kind of factors that you need to keep in mind when creating an environment. The USB hub, we get a lot of questions about, can I just use a $30 hub? That's absolutely incorrect. This one has been, as I mentioned earlier, vented to test multiple systems or multiple connectivity rather. So looking at this packages, it provides number 1, flexibility, reliability, and key, we don't know what the classroom is going to look like in the near future. So that being said, keep in mind, we could customize this as just a starting package with products that we selected for the key factors I identified earlier. To that note, let me turn it back over to Corey so she can actually talk more about the PD and the blended learning environments with these products. Thanks, Corey.
All right, thank you, Ramon. So as Ramon mentioned, I'm going to just talk briefly about the most common presentation softwares that you might be seeing in your classrooms, along with some of that professional development that we offer at Visual Sound. So as you can see on the bottom, there is a link that says Visual Sound Remote Learning. We will be sending that out to everyone. And that is a schedule of all the upcoming webinars and everything that we are doing. It also includes videos of all the previous webinars, and this video will be included probably within an hour of us finishing today. It'll be uploaded to that YouTube playlist for you to view and at your pleasure. So as he said, the presentation software, I'm going to just kind of go around in a clockwise circle. So we're going to start with Smart Learning Suite. Most of you are familiar with the smart panels that you possibly have hanging in your classrooms, but Smart Learning Suite is the software that comes with those boards. And it is a very awesome tool to use for remote learning because you can use hellosmart.com to create interactive presentations so that while you're displaying the teacher view on, for example, your Google Meet or your Microsoft Teams, your students can be on HelloSmart on their devices interacting with your presentation. So it is a great way to just add that interactivity and make the students feel more connected when they are at home and you're at home or in the classroom, however you might be. It's also really good for blended learning because if I heard some schools are looking at doing an A-B type of schedule. So if you have half your class in the school on day A, the students on day B can still interact from home at the same time. So Google, as you can tell, we are on Google Meet right now. And then you also have Google Classroom, Google Drive, and a ton of other Google tools that you can be using with your students. So the Google Suite is really nice because everything blends together and works together. In Google Classroom, there are a lot of different things you can do to help organize yourself and your students. It also allows for that collaboration because you can have multiple students working on the same document or presentation. You can present the way we are right now. And if you notice in Google Meet, you have the chat box. So your students who are afraid to come off the mute or a little shy, they can type in the chat room. If they want to come off mute, they can come off mute. And the other thing that you as the teacher have the ability to do is mute anyone in your chat, and you could also boot them from the room. Now, Google Meet, if you do boot them, they are able to come back in, but it does give students a couple of minutes to kind of cool down if they were doing something inappropriate. So by the time that they reload and log back in, they should have kind of calmed down and they're not going to be as disruptive for the rest of the class. Microsoft Teams. Oh, sorry, I said I was going to go clockwise and then I skipped. So in Zoom, you have the ability to do breakout rooms, and you also have the ability to set it up as a webinar. And now those are features in the paid version of Zoom, not the free version. So that also will depend on your Zoom account. But the breakout rooms are really nice because you as the teacher can go back and forth between your different classes. So if you have a large class of like 25 students logged in, but you want them working in small groups of, let's say, 5, you as the teacher can go between the 5 different Zoom rooms, but the students are going to be in their own little private chat. And this is really nice because by having those private breakout rooms, you could have 5 conversations going on and not everyone on the microphone at the same time. As you can tell, if you've ever heard one of these video chats, it's very easy for everyone to talk at the same time and then you can't hear anyone. So those breakout rooms just make it easier for multiple conversations to take place at the same time. Also, Zoom has that built-in whiteboard feature. If you wanted to whiteboard in the other 3 presentation softwares, there are ways to do it that we can discuss in professional development. If you go through the archived webinars, we did do a session on whiteboarding without a whiteboard that talks about the options in all 4 of these platforms. So the last platform is Microsoft, and Microsoft Teams is a great platform to use. It is connected with your Teams. So if you're using Teams and OneNote and OneDrive and all of those things, it is really easy to implement it together. It works really nicely. And just like Google, you're going to have everything kind of all in one. You're going to have your Microsoft Whiteboard, your OneDrive, your Teams, your OneNote. So everything in Microsoft does work really nicely together. You then have a bunch of other third-party apps that will work well with all of these. The only one that doesn't have a built-in webinar type of system is Smart Learning Suite. So if you are going to be using the Smart Learning Suite presentation software, you would still need to use a different video chat software. So you can pair up Smart Learning Suite with Google Meet, with Zoom, with Microsoft Teams, anything like that. All you would do is hit screen share. So the same way that we're sharing a PowerPoint on Google Meet, you can share a Smart Learning Suite on any of the other platforms. I am now going to pass this back to Claudia. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. I had put in the chat, and if you have not done so already, Corey had mentioned that we'd love to get this.
I'm going to go back to that slide. Sorry.
Sorry.
I'll get back to your slide. My computer slowed again.
Sorry. As I put in the chat, we would love to get this presentation out to everyone. So if you have not done so already, if you could please give us your name, your school, and your email, we will make sure that you're added to our list and we can get this presentation out to you. I also want to thank everyone for joining us. We really just want to open up the floor for questions. We know everyone has a unique situation, but we're happy to listen and hear what your questions are. So any questions? Corey, is there anything on the chat?
Just names and email addresses so far. Feel free to come off of mute if you'd like to ask your question verbally, or as Claudia said, you can put it in the chat box.
I know someone out there has a question. To reiterate, to summarize something that we've gotten a lot of calls, my colleagues and I, regarding this, regarding these packages. And I think the most important thing to take away from today is that we can customize the packages to meet your individual school's needs. We can certainly work with you. The packages were designed to be flexible, as Ramon said, portable, and that's it. Rich?
All right, Claudia, back at the beginning of the chat, we did have someone say they were interested in more information about the virtual graduation. So would you like to speak about that a little bit?
Certainly, as much as I can. As I mentioned, we have a division that does live events and production. They can do, for a virtual graduation, they would work with you on essentially putting together the production elements. What we're seeing from a lot of schools is more the pre-production of taping speakers. We have schools, my district here is, I was talking to someone the other day, they're allowing the students to make an appointment in their cap and gown and walk across the stage that they'll videotape. So whatever you guys come up with, we can certainly work with you to create and put together a package. We also work with you on the technology to make sure it's streamed properly. Either put yourself, just let me know who that is in the chat if they haven't done so already, and we'll reach out to you. We'll have our live events and production staff reach out to you.
Sorry, there is a question in the chat. I don't know if you guys saw it. From Richard, if you send a video feed that includes the screen in the front of the room, will there be a problem with flicker, project refresh versus camera frame rate? Ramon, you might be best to answer that.
Yeah, no, this is all dependent on the network, right? So we're thinking about the number of classrooms that you may have in the school. The presentation and the video is based on the platform that you're using, like a Skype or Teams, et cetera. It would not flicker based on the software. The actual data rate of the PC, or rather not the PC, but the actual camera, would strongly recommend using the 720p to minimize any bandwidth issues. The higher you go, then we know that the cameras can do 1080p, but 720p resolution, HD resolution, is plenty based on the network connectivity. So I basically recommend using a lower resolution at HD 720 on your testing and then move it up, because part of our analysis is looking at the number of classrooms you're trying to roll out. This particular solution is just identifying the interconnectivity of the classroom and being portable for a single use at home if you need it. So we took that into consideration. But a key, great question, because I'm not concerned about the flicker, more concerned about the bandwidth if you have multiple classrooms, Richard.
Thanks, Mo. We got one more from Mike Kalinowski.
Hey, Mike, it's Claudia Figelman. How are you? I was actually in your office about 3 hours ago, even though you weren't there. Mike's question is regarding availability of product. It varies by manufacturer. I actually had a long chat with the company. The cameras that we're recommending in this product are actually not made in Taiwan and are readily available. Again, it does depend on the manufacturer, but clearly these are larger cameras. These are not consumer grade, so there is availability, and certainly we have been working with our manufacturers to make sure that there's plenty in the supply chain. If not, they're working with us to let us know when stock will be available.
Thank you, Claudia.
You're welcome, Mike. I was with Yuki. I wasn't just wandering around campus.
Yeah, I know. I just finished up a thing we were working on with Yuki. So
Okay.
Thanks for visiting campus.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be there during a shutdown. It's very easy I parked right in front of Anderson Hall without a problem. Sorry, sidebar. Again, any other questions for anyone out there? And again, if you have not already done so, please give us your name, school name, and email address in the chat so we can get this presentation out to you.
No other questions? Let them think about it. They got to ponder a little bit, I guess. Maybe I have a question for everyone outside of visual sound. It's we've been challenged to kind of understand the direction of the classroom. So just in general, we'd like to kind of understand what is the classroom. We know that the look of the new classroom, put it that way, is it hybrid? We're hearing so many different things from different school districts. But what's your biggest challenge currently now in respect to this blended learning environment in general? Anyone? We know from a technology perspective, we know we've got to look at supply on demand, the product, and things of that nature, but don't know what the space or how the learning is going to do. We hear, like Corey mentioned earlier, we hear about hybrid rotating schedules and things of that nature. Maybe any insight can kind of give us an idea of maybe some of the solutions that we need to put together. Anyone?
You could, from my question, you could tell that we're looking at reconfiguring or adding capability to many of our classrooms to support some sort of environment where distance learning and live lectures can go on at the same time. I mean, we have many rooms configured that way, but we're going to add a lot more, knowing that what's going on now probably won't end very soon, and even when it does, it will change things. So yeah, most of it is, as Claudia said, she was just with Yuki because he's in classrooms looking at solutions to be able to meet those needs. And we're also looking at Zoom, and we have a lot of issues with people trying to connect to Zoom, which we've pretty much solved most of those. So it's a lot of that is related to all the distance learning solutions that we have to look at and consider to make the campus viable in situations like this.
Thank you for your feedback. And I know Zoom had some issues early on, security issues. hopefully they've been all straightened and taken care of recently. I think I did see some upgrades on that. Any other comments? Appreciate that feedback, by the way.
So Ramon, we got 2 more comments in the chat box. So
Okay.
Richard wrote, the biggest challenge is waiting to find out how classes will be held in the fall. No firm answers make it difficult to plan. So I think we're all kind of waiting right now for Harrisburg and for New Jersey and Delaware and whatever other states might be participating in today's webinar. I think we're all just waiting on the government to make their decisions so that the schools can try to start making their decisions. But we are here to support you. And then somebody else wrote, I would say the biggest challenge is getting the students able to be online at the same time. With families working and multiple families, it's tough for them to all be on at the same time. It's nice that live lessons can be recorded for those getting on later. So that is an excellent point as well. Something that we might want to consider, and we've been doing professional development on this, is how to pre-record your lessons, how to make them available for students to work asynchronously. So if you have any hardware options that might help those teachers that are recording or need to edit recordings, that's something, Ramon, that if you wanted to speak about.
Yeah, we do have, we didn't cover that today as some of the recording capabilities. Don't know, because at times we're looking at, we know that Zoom and the Googles, et cetera, can record. Some of the key things is there, and what I always mention, and from a recording perspective, is the ability to go specifically to a certain section in an instructional exercise. How you tag in your exercise, how you managing it. This library, I could just see every classroom now and everything being recorded. How are you managing that? I think that's a challenge in itself, where in the past it was just specific classes. Now every class is going to be managed. So what's your storage capabilities, or how are you managing that? That's part of the challenge where I mentioned earlier about bandwidth capabilities, right? That's just one issue. Now storage capabilities, and then managing it. Do you have the resource and skill sets to manage it? So those are the kind of things that everyone is up to par right now, just kind of understand what's going on. And we can feel your pain too, because we're seeing it from all directions and trying to fulfill, the requirements for New Jersey versus Delaware, et cetera, just like Corey mentioned. It's been quite challenging for us, and that's the reason I was asking, what are some of the challenges you see? And we could see that across the board. Great question. Thank you for asking.
If anyone else has any questions, again, feel free to type them in the chat or come off of mute. Someone just wrote thank you. So
Oh,
that
okay.
was the chat box that just came in.
Just look at that. We'll give it a couple more minutes in case someone can think of anything else.
Yep. Thank you to everyone that joined us today. We're not going to rush off. So again, if you have more questions, please feel free. But we appreciate you for your time, and thank you for joining us today.